Welcome to Vitalify Unplugged. You're listening to your hosts, Gree and Steph.
In this podcast, we talk about everything health and well-being, science and technology, and ancient wisdom.
This is for the quirky humans navigating the messy middle, looking for the path to true vitality.
It's for the curious minds and tired bodies looking for clarity, energy, and inspiration that works your way.
So, hey there. Have you ever felt like your brain is foggy, scattered, maybe even a little fried? Too much screen time? Is it AI? Is it life? Or is there something deeper going on?
People are saying that AI is melting our brains, that it's creating brain rot. Is it really though? What if the story could be more hopeful?
Today we're unpacking the brain rot fear, why AI isn't the enemy, and how something as simple as Omega-3s could be the brain's best ally. So, but before we do that, Gree, what's been happening with you? Where are you at?
I was going to ask you that.
Oh, sorry.
Hey, listen, I'm always, what do you call it, burning the candle in all ends? No, I'm not burning the candle. I have a lot of projects on the go, but right now a lot of my focus has been on trying to help people with AI and automation, digital enablement for people who maybe beginners, maybe non-techie and things like that. But yesterday I got invited to an event with the PSA, which is the most the organization with most acronyms in the entire world, I think, but it stands for Professional Speaker Association. And there was a guest speaker called Alison Shamir, who is an expert on imposter syndrome. And it was really interesting because I always thought that imposter syndrome was something that was only said about women. Now it turns out, and this has really nothing to do with brain rot or anything like that, but it was really interesting because what she shared was that 70% of everyone has imposter syndrome at some stage in their life, but 30% never have imposter syndrome. However, there's a distinctive difference between self-doubt and imposter syndrome, or it's actually called imposter phenomenon. I can't even say that word. Phenomenon, that one. Anyway, syndrome is easier to say, but it's not a diagnosed condition. So the distinction between having self-doubt and things like that, it's so, there were so many different takeouts from this conversation. I bought the book. I haven't read it yet because this was last night. But having a fear, having self-doubt and things, and then having imposter syndrome, because where you have self-doubt, it's about what you do. Oh, I don't know, how am I going to do this? All that sort of stuff. If you have imposter phenomenon, I said it right, you're actually,
Absolutely.
it's about who you are. It's about who you are. It's always about who you are. And it starts with self-worth. And the first step you have to take is actually to change the story you're telling yourself about yourself. But as a massive feminist, I kind of went, yeah, but I don't like people telling women they have imposter syndrome, because it does happen. And what she was saying is that imposter syndrome exists equally in men and women, but the way that it's talked about is very different, right? So one of the things she said is men go up in seniority or in leadership or whatever, their imposter syndrome generally goes down. For women, as they go up, their imposter syndrome goes up. So it's kind of that there are differences, but it's not gendered in terms of who has got it, but it's very gendered in terms of how we talk about it and things like that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
potentially how society perceives it and makes people feel about it.
Yeah.
And if I can jump on the back of that, self-worth has been one of my massive battles recently, in in the last couple of years, forever, to be
Yeah.
honest. And it's something that has just been really mirrored that I need to process and work through, because definitely I feel like I've spent my life studying, but I still don't know enough. And when I speak, even though I've got years of
I think
experience
it's
and
called
knowledge,
imposter phenomenon, my friend.
and I've identified that it is a
Mhm.
reflection of my own self-talk and my own self-worth. And that is it's like lots of years of undoing to
Mm.
relearn that I am worthy, and that I am, I don't have to be an expert on everything, but still my experience and my knowledge is valuable. So it's such
But you are an
it's
expert on a lot of things.
well, my imposter phenomenon is telling me otherwise, and I have to really, I battle with
Yeah.
that. And so I need to get that book.
Yeah, it's
And
available on Kindle even. So
I'll check it
send
out.
you.
Maybe we'll put it in the link to the show notes, because I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
I think it's
a lot of
really
people will
worthwhile.
benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And that's
So
what we're here for, to share
yeah,
resources, to
absolutely,
build safe
absolutely.
spaces, empower
Yeah.
everybody, hopefully, and build vitality in people's lives by giving tools that work for some and may not work for others, and creating that platform of options
But
for
also
health and
education,
well-being.
right? So we
Yep,
can put her links in there as well, because she was not pushing her book or
no,
anything like that. She was saying, I share a lot
resonated.
on my
Yeah,
I share a lot online and things. So I'm hoping I might get to do something with her at some stage.
that would be cool. Maybe we could ask her
So
to come on. Anyway, side note.
maybe I could. I have a feeling she would be very open to that.
Cool. Well,
Anyway,
and
so
can I
yeah.
just add to also linking everything that you're saying into this episode, because
Mm.
I think brain rot, I might be jumping the gun, but what I'm thinking is that wouldn't be surprising.
Never,
But
there is no gun to jump, right?
well, true.
This is
Well, I don't like
fluid.
guns.
We can follow
Yeah.
the butterflies as much as we like.
Well, I'm just thinking brain rot, brain fog, and imposter phenomenon could be interconnected. And so maybe we can explore that as we go through this episode.
Yeah, sure. So I guess if we start with, should we talk about brain fog and brain rot?
I think
Because
what
I
we've
think you started
discovered,
out with that.
well, I think what we've discovered in our conversations prior to recording is that maybe we have different definitions. So I kind of would have thought brain fog is sort of more emotional, and brain rot is connected to what you're putting into your brain, like either through television, through social media,
Yeah.
through AI. So I'd be curious to hear what your definition between the two are, like brain rot versus brain fog.
It's interesting with so I personally never thought I had brain fog. I don't like that term because my brain never feels foggy. It just feels like it's got a lot of stuff in there, and it's I think we have different definitions of that. But I thought I'd ask my friend ChatGPT or AI, generative AI. So it says brain fog is mental cloudiness, forgetfulness, sluggishness, common in midlife due to stress, hormones, poor sleep, or diet. That's kind of how they define brain fog. I mean, maybe it fits in with the messy middle. I do think one time we'll have to talk about the messy middle, because I had some interesting feedback on that yesterday too.
Ooh,
But
okay.
brain rot is actually a more of a cultural phrase, and it's used in the sense that modern technology is degrading our cognitive function. So interlinked, right? Because I know that brain fog, if which I didn't used to call brain fog, but probably is, it's exasperated by the speed at which things come to you, and technology plays a massive part in how quickly things comes at you, right? So it's our brain is having to process things. Well, our brain can process things super fast, right? But it's for us to catch up with it emotionally and I guess at a sensory level as well, in a way. So but it's
And
yeah, go ahead.
well, I was going to say, from a parenting perspective, I felt like I hadn't really recognized fogginess, and I definitely use the word fogginess because that I can totally connect with that. Like, my brain is like the clouds, and you can't quite see, it's overcast, and there's a lot, like, it's heavy. So definitely brain fog for me is something that I bumped into or recognized in pregnancy, because in
It's
the
very
early
typical
stage,
in pregnancy. Yeah.
right? And then ever since then, whether I had it before or not, I probably did, but and I know I am quite flighty and airy anyway, so and
Sensitive, highly sensitive.
I'm highly sensitive. And so potentially it was already existing, but I do think the pregnancy brought it to my attention. And then, people kind of reinforce that message as well. Oh yeah, it's just your pregnancy. It's just your hormones.
And you go,
you know,
"Just what?"
and to be honest, it never came back. But I don't know that I
Your
ever had
brain
it in
never came back? Or the brain
Well,
fogginess?
the fogginess sort of
I think your
never
brain is there.
lifted. No,
Yeah.
well, it never kind of lifted in the way that I thought it was. So, but and then you sort of just manage. And then again, when I hit 40s, I definitely found myself getting halfway through sentences and being like, "What was I saying?" Or like the kids are doing something, the phone's ringing, I'm trying to scroll on social media, and there's a lot of things going on, and I've just like blanked if someone asks me a question or whatever. So for me, that's brain fog.
Yeah, so I think the symptom is brain fog, and the terminology, or the cultural phrase, if you like, of brain rot exasperates that to a certain extent, amplifies the negatives of fogginess, if you like. So, even if I didn't call it brain fog, because I think because a partner once told me he was suffering from depression, and he said it was like this fog, this deep clouds that were sitting there. So I'm going, let me stay optimistic and positive and not think about the fog and the and the clouds and things like that. So maybe it's one of my existential mechanisms for survival in a world that is kind of tough on people. So, but when I started taking supplements and things like that, there was definitely that clarity of mind that came out, which is what I like to call it. Like I got my brain back after menopause, which is awesome, and I can now focus on, like, I know that people say you can't do multiple things and you should focus on one thing. Well, I can focus on multiple things in parallel, okay? But I can put lines between them, and then I see that they're interlinked, like little butterflies that fly together.
That's reassuring, because I have lots of things on the go all the time. My problem is putting the lines up between them, see how they all interlink.
And I think we shouldn't have to explain these things. I have exactly the same thing. This is probably why we've known that we have to work together since the first day we met. Or actually, we haven't met. Well, it's interesting, when we live in a very linear world, a very neurotypical world, if I can call it that. And so many of us may not quite be created in that mold, and our brains do function differently. There is significant evidence around that. So we just need to open up for everybody else or for everybody's brains to be accepted, right? But to me, when I've been around AI for a very, very long time, but when generative AI first came out and ChatGPT became available, which is less than 3 years ago, I started experimenting a lot. Before that, I had been using technologies to kind of, sort out my lists and all that sort of stuff. Now I don't use lists anymore because I don't need to. So what happened for me with the event of event, I don't know, of
Whatever you want.
ChatGPT was, yeah, exactly. It's that I now suddenly I have a sounding board when I need one. I can guide it. I have learned to drive it. I can teach people how to drive it. I can teach people how to make AI and other technologies work for them. And I don't have to plan it out, and I don't have to have it in a rigid. And if I think about it from a software engineering kind of perspective, I don't have to go waterfall one thing after the other. I can be agile and I can decide what's going to happen next and things like that. And I think this is not really technology that might help, but one of my coaches, and I might even have mentioned it before, she has a big board, and she goes and she, with all her big ticket items on, all her big projects on, and then she'll go, I'm going to take this big project now and I'm going to work for it for however long until I'm bored. And that might be 5 minutes, it might be 5 hours. It doesn't really matter, because that's how the brain works. Then she'll go and put it back, and she'll go and grab another one and work on that for whatever time. And that's, having the opening for being able to do those things in a less linear manner and a more fluid way will also open up for a lot more innovation and following on impact, I guess. So I think we can make AI an ally, and that doesn't mean our brain is rotting. If we use it with intention and purpose, and we inject the values and vision that we have into technology, then we're actually firing up our brain. So our brain's not shutting down like people say that it is, but it's firing up and elevating itself. How do you like that? That's my personal opinion.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I've lately been having quite a few conversations with parents, because that's my vibe and that's where I'm at in my life, right? And hanging out with people with teens and tweens, and there's this sort of rhetoric around being really fearful of it, and I'm assuming that's sort of come from external media in the sense of it's going to take over the world and we're all going to die type thing. But and what I found interesting was that when you challenge that perspective, they were open to it. So what that kind of indicated to me is that there's this way of thinking that people can get stuck into. And for me, AI and having a kid with dyslexia, and coming from a family with dyslexia, it has helped me as a person with lots of butterflies, but really creative and really good intent. It has helped me being able to, and like I'm a bit like I've seen some of the reels from young people who use AI in very different ways, but I'm kind of in that category of I only know how to use ChatGPT at the moment. But that's and I've obviously been using AI for a long time without knowing it, but the advent, I guess, of ChatGPT has really, it was like, for me, it opened up a whole new world, and it really excited me, and it really it made me and I think when you share that excitement and you share that possibility, the fearfulness diminishes, and it opens up this whole new I think a whole new DNA and expression of old DNAs. Epigenetics is just going to like boom. And your program, Raise It Right, is exactly what young people, what schools, what health, how to align your values with the technology to blossom versus destroy. So I see AI as a friend. I also acknowledge the potentiality of how dangerous it can be. I don't dismiss that. But I think
and that's
if
what
we give
Raise It
more,
Right is about. Yeah. If
I
enough
agree.
of us actually do it right,
The more
then
intention,
we will change the trajectory, right? And it won't take over. But we do need a lot more women and other underrepresented people in the tech and in the AI industry. But let's leave it at that, because that is a whole different can of worms, right?
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and I will say that sometimes, and I know this goes for both of us, Steph. There are a lot of wormholes and rabbit holes inside the sort of world of technology and AI, and ours are different. Yeah, we can go. People use AI for mental health, which is okay as long as you need to go and see, and and that's been built into the models now. You actually need to go and see a professional, right?
Mm.
so,
Well,
so,
I
but
know healthcare systems in Victoria are doing some pretty
mm,
big work. I don't have privy to the insides of it, but I
well,
know that there's some pretty deep work
you have to. Yep.
being done that people can connect with health professionals just through an app on the government health website. So I
Yep.
know that it's still clunky
Yeah.
and it's not clean,
Yeah.
but it's heading that way. And so I just want to bring up one little, fear or,
Anecdote.
this sort of, well, there's a rhetoric around, being so attached to technology actually is a disconnection to humanity and who we are. And,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I do think that is something to be aware of because, seeing kids glued to their phones drives me
Mm.
nuts. My kids do it and I limit it, but there's still this, when they go and we were at a party for friends and all the kids were sitting there individually on their phones, but they were all talking to
Yeah.
each other and sharing things. So there's just a new way of connecting. And as older people, we have to embrace the technology and just accept to some extent that it is changing the landscape. But so did TV.
Mm.
Like my grandma used to be
Yeah,
like,
so did the
oh,
calculator.
that's right. So it's just that next level.
But
And
yeah,
it can actually connect in the right
and it
balance.
does. I mean, I did a talk many years ago about this Norwegian young man, who was severely disabled. And when he passed away at 23 or something, his parents were quite sad for him because he didn't have any friends. Turns out that people turned up from all over the world to his funeral because he was this massively well-known person in the gaming
Oh,
world, right?
I
So
love
it's like
that.
you go, "Oh, wow." But we do need to kind of look at it. And I want to just leave a drop of a thought for a future episode here, because in Australia now we're about to have bans on the social media for
Oh,
anybody who's under 16. And I have ambivalent feelings towards it
mm-hmm.
because I haven't seen the full list of what is getting banned. But one of the things that I'm concerned about, just one of them, because there's a few, one of the things is how do you police it? But the other thing that I'm more concerned about is actually the gendered approach to it, because I don't think they're going to ban gaming, which is much more masculine. Many more boys play games, but they're banning social media, which many more girls are on, right?
So
So then
interesting.
we are taking away that ability to actually get comfortable with technology from an early age. So I don't disagree that there needs to be measures around it or anything like that, but I have some thought bubbles. But we can deep dive into that at some stage, and maybe we can get a couple of
Maybe,
parents on.
yeah, because on the flip side of that, I heard a very deeply heart-wrenching story, but that wasn't, I don't know how it connected to social media, to be honest. Maybe it was a dating app. But this 16-year-old boy had been lured in via a dating app to send a nude pic, and there it was
Yeah.
actually connected to a cartel, and then they shamed him and he actually committed suicide. So the father's story is heart-wrenchingly painful to listen to, and
Yep.
he's a full advocate for no social media until the age of 16 because of this event. So there are
Yeah.
pitfalls and dangers, but at the same time,
I,
I guess it's
I
about
don't
the
think we're
adults.
disagreeing, but I think we need to actually have the full picture, and that is,
Yeah,
there definitely needs to be measured. My other argument is like, so the kids that are really vulnerable, they're not going to be protected because they will find a way, because there's not going to be adult supervision. So who's going to monitor it? And do we really want the big tech companies to use image scans and AI
Oh my
to identify the
gosh.
age of the children, because that is one of the things they're discussing. So I'm just,
Whoa.
this has nothing to do with health and well-being, or does it?
Well,
Maybe it does.
I think as we said at the start, it's all interconnected in my view. But and if we go back to our thinking about the brain and brain rot and brain versus brain fog,
Well, we've shot
you know,
all the brain rot off now, right? So I do think
well, so
actually brain rot is real. Brain rot is real. If you just sit and watch things on the screen and you don't interact and you don't do any training, it can cause your brain to slowly but surely shut down or not fire up in the areas that they need to go in. So, but yeah, go on back to the brain from the medical science perspective.
sorry, that just triggered a thought of is it Professor or Dr. Gabor Mate? He has done some incredible. He's a massive advocate for no phones for kids because of what you're saying, like the shutting down, the brain rot of scrolling and just sitting. And you know what?
Yep.
YouTube Shorts is a pain in the ass. Like my kids watch
Oh my
stuff
God,
for
I love them.
I know. I mean, they're addictive, and that's their intention, right? And so, is that what is
Especially
the
the
brain
ones,
rot coming
especially the
from, or
ones with,
what?
especially the ones with animals. Yeah, but laugh is good.
Well, it is,
Laughing
right?
is good.
So, but is it firing your brain cells to make you think and be creative?
I don't think it is. I think everything in moderation, and I think that's what, we're in such a receiving season. We're just kind of we're not we're not producing, we're just consuming. So we need to, but
We're
some people are
massive.
prosuming, producing and consuming. So if you use it to learn from and to take ideas from, and then you go and act on them, but then it's not necessarily bad. But it's if it becomes doomsday scrolling, that it could. I am not a doctor. I have no idea. I'm not a psychologist. I just have opinions.
Well, and just on top of to interject into that, I'm a part of an Indigenous circle, and they are massively interconnected with the stories of creation through earth, and the how things were formed, and the learning from the trees, learning from the plants, and learning at how they all interact with each other, and even an incredible human, Dr. Zach. Oh, I need to look him up, but he's working with an Australian scientist to feed. To connect AI to the trees and interpret their language, because you know how they all have the
That is
mycelium
so
connection.
cool.
And so, yeah, like,
And
and just interacting and connecting nature with the tech and using the ancient wisdom with the modern science to help us evolve as a species.
so that was a little bit of a segue or a tangent, but this is how we roll here. But let's get back to our brains and I guess nourishing our brains. Steph, do you want to talk a little bit about it from a health and wellness perspective, I guess?
Well, I guess like any part of our body, we need to nourish it. And if you want to put it down into cellular level, we have the DHA, which is one of the omega-3 family where the brain builds its capacity from, and it helps with focus, memory, mood. And most of us, especially women over 35, are walking around with it at a very low level. And when we rebalance that, and we can do that in various ways, it helps us not just like it rebalances the brain at cellular level in a sense that we can have that space and capacity to regulate and, slow down or focus or concentrate or run multiple things at a time without being overwhelmed. And so, yeah, just nourishing your brain, not just by what you're watching and what you're feeding yourself, which feeding yourself with highly omega rich type of foods like walnuts, salmon, chia seeds, oils,
Uh,
and then adding supplements can help as well. Then, the
Natural
brain
ones, yeah.
fog may not be so intense. And when you are scrolling, you might have the capacity to be like, oh, I've been here for longer than I need and I can move on now. Do you know what I mean? So it's definitely nourishing our brain at cellular level is always a good idea. And then combining it with healthy foods that are rich in omegas, and then nourishing it with what you feed it in terms of exposure to media, social media. And then, like what you were saying is, taking that capacity and embracing AI, but not just consuming, like learn
No,
from it,
and not
process
just
it.
AI, any tech, yeah.
Yeah, right. Any tech,
Mm.
social media, whatever. So
And I
that's
just
my
had a
little bit.
little sort of, I had a little side thing there as you're talking about nourishing from the inside. But we also sometimes, even if our brains are clear, I know because I can sit and focus on one thing for hours. But if you combine it with a little technology called a watch, a stopwatch, or a timer, and you just go, you know what, I'm going to work on this for 25 minutes. So I did say before, but you should take a break and you should give your brain a reset. And I know that when I walk my dog is when I have the best ideas.
Oh
So
yeah.
I take my phone and I talk to it
Mm,
to
I
record my ideas.
Well, similar. I have a similar experience when I haven't done this for a while. You've reminded me. I need to go do it. I used to take my dog up to, we've got some nature reserves, and then I would actually record lives or record a
Yeah,
video
yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
right. At that time, I'm so immersed in this beauty of nature. It inspires my brain. So then I tap
It's
into
amazing.
technology. And so, nature and
But
technology come
yeah,
together.
this is true. We've got a beautiful and it's not a reserve, it's a park up here. It's called Boomber Park, and walking distance, and it's my favorite place to go. It's got a little pond, it's got all native plants and all that sort of stuff. And when I want to kind of have clarity, better clarity, different clarity, I always go there. So but I was thinking we have a couple of different topics that we could be tapping into next week. So I'm thinking we could dive deeper into the brain fog and the causes of it and what you could do with it, because now we've been talking more about the brain rot and AI, how that works with it. Or because I know I'm going to listen to a gut health expert, we could look at gut health and take us from bloat to bliss. So stay tuned. We will announce it in advance.
Yeah. Well, your gut is your second brain. I quite like that idea.
Yeah,
Let's see.
yeah.
That sounds
Maybe we
good.
switch to the gut.
Yeah. But I think just weaving it all together, because somehow it is all interconnected. But I guess the offer
Like our
is
brain wiring.
yeah. The offer in this episode is to potentially open up your thoughts around AI as not the evil villain, but more as the potential as a friend who can help you along the way. And I think when we reframe, sometimes it just gives us that permission to see things from a different light and from a different perspective. And then when you do that, the channels in your thinking open up in different ways. So hopefully we've been able to portray that in this episode in the roundabout way.
At least we've had some fun, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sure. I promise things will get tighter as we get more proficient at this. But
We're learning.
in the process, let's have some fun together and think
Always
about what you could
about
do. We'll
fun.
drop some resources around. What can you do to get more comfortable? What can you do to learn to drive tech like you drive your car?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some supplements that help nourish your brain and
Yeah.
address any brain
Yeah.
fog if that's
Yeah.
hanging around
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, we can do that.
Cool.
All right.
Well, thanks, Greg.
Okay. Yeah.
See you
Bye.
next time.
How are you?
Thanks for joining us on Vitalify Unplugged. If your brain's been feeling foggy or fried, you're not broken, you're human. Let this be your reminder to nourish your mind, question the narrative, and choose tools that empower, not overwhelm. Share this with a friend and subscribe for more soul-fueled science each week. See you next time.